about to kick off for the first time ever on the GRIDLIFE Festival Tour. Welcome to Carolina Motorsports Park. I'm Kyle Heyer alongside Greg Kramer. Greg, welcome aboard. A new sponsor, a new championship, a new format for TrackBattle in 2023.
A new era, really, and that's so exciting here, this Festival Tour. Every one of the races streamed. That new format, which we'll talk about, I think is going to lend itself incredibly well to this coverage. I think it's going to build huge excitement and take this TrackBattle championship with NOS Energy now as the entitlement partner up a whole level. It's going to be special.
This coverage is powered by Hyundai N, Never Just Drive, and Falcon, the official tire of GRIDLIFE TrackBattle. These cars on track are your Falcon classes, Falcon Club TR and Falcon Sunday Cup. This is qualifying one, Greg. And just to run down the new format we mentioned, no longer is it just every session is the same. We have a weekend progression. This morning, 2 practice sessions for all the different drivers to get themselves geared up for the competition. It's competition time now. There are 3 qualifying sessions, after which we'll take the top 5 from all the different categories and put them in the Podium Sprint tomorrow afternoon, which is basically a 2-lap flying shootout for the top 5 in each category, where they get 2 laps all to themselves, all on the live stream. It's going to be a blast to watch.
And if you've been watching GRIDLIFE for the last couple of years, folks, and you've seen our top 10 shootout for GLTC qualifying, it's essentially that concept. And it's so cool because you see each car, you can follow it individually and really see those drivers working, laying down a lap. You're not just trying to pick stuff out of a field of cars. I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. One of the key things, though, is whether you're out there in practice or qualifying or in the Podium Sprint, if you set a track record, that's official. But the qualifying, it just gets you into that Podium Sprint where you earn points and trophies.
Certainly. There's Mario Moroni in the number 727. That is a Falcon Club TR class car, and he is his practice time this morning, a 1:45.168. And Falcon Club TR is a really interesting class. It's kind of built for relatively lightweight engine-swapped cars. You can do engine swaps in this category. And everyone is running the Falcon RT660 tire in this class. So they're all in basically the same set of shoes and going out there to run track records, which, again, this weekend, first time here at Carolina Motorsports Park, there is no records set yet. So everyone will be setting new records here this weekend. By the way, records count in any session, including practice. Those are good for 1 point on the season championship.
And they're going to be going after it in every session for those reasons. Yes, in TrackBattle, in the time attack format, you're going for records. That's one of the big goals. But adding this championship level to it, and a big spin as well, tells you how hard they're pushing right from the off here.
Pushing very hard for Mario Moroni. He's going to go off down there at turn number 1, back into the runoff area and get back rolling. We got some new graphics. We're going to debut a little bit later here in the weekend, but we got our old stuff to just get us through this session. Fastest lap so far for Mario Moroni. The goal here is to be top 5 in your class at the end of 3 of our qualifying sessions. So imagine all those qualifying sessions together as one big session. That's where you want to be. So right now, the top 5, so Moore, Zhang, Carter, Boys, and Moroni, if it were to end now, those would be your basically your Podium Sprint competitors tomorrow afternoon.
Yep, and then in the second qualifying session, if somebody moves up and gets into that top 5, you just take the fastest lap from each session, set up a grid, right? And then the top 5 move on, and it's going to be really, really exciting here. So right now, though, Moroni is essentially a track record holder at that 1:45.168, and so they're going after that record now. He's on top, kind of comfortably so at this point, over the 880 of Dead Boys, and that is a Scion FRS, so having a good, solid run there. And then in the third spot, 611 of Benjamin Carter in the Honda S2000. And is it safe to say here, Kyle, that these cars, just as a descriptor for people that aren't really familiar with it, these would probably be the closest to what is run in the Touring Cup? Very,
very similar in some ways. The rule set is basically completely different, but you can, if you build your car the right way, you can transition pretty easily. And so there are cars here that you could probably run directly in GLTC. There are some cars here that would not be legal. There's just some small changes you'd have to make. There's that 880, the Dead Boys group here in that Scion FRS. Very pretty, kind of that moon slate color.
Yeah, it is.
Looking very, very good right now. So we should
got a pretty good team behind him, too.
Certainly does. We should also mention that these qualifying sessions are largely done by class, which is a departure from the group-based sessions we've done in the past. So on track now, we're going to combine classes that we can combine together. These are the Falcon categories. So no longer is it just based on pace that you're grouped with. It's by your class, which I think gives better context right now for how the classes or how the drivers in the category are doing in relation to each other.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, looking at that scoring order right now, Maroney's got things covered a little bit, but look at how close from second back to fifth. I mean, that margin, there are 5 cars there covered by 0.3 of a second. So this class is ultra competitive.
Yeah, Lucas Urban right now is the fastest driver in the Falcon Sunday Cup category. I want to talk about Sunday Cup for a second, Greg.
Yeah.
Sunday Cup is a great category if you've done the time attack thing forever and you want to just show up to the racetrack and get seat time and just drive and have fun. It's also a great entry-level category, but it is extremely fierce in competition, but they also like having fun. So tomorrow when we do our podium sprint session, the 5 qualifiers, instead of getting 2 laps each, they're all going to go out on track together. And after 2 laps, we're going to black flag the slowest car and continue to do that until we have a last man or woman standing. And the last driver left is your winner of the weekend.
So that will be the motorsports version of a cage match.
Exactly. I mean, it's almost like
it.
if you played Forza, the knockout style
Yeah.
in Forza. It's very much a video game that we're kind of playing with here this weekend.
We're just knocking them out live during the race as opposed to at the end of of the session as opposed to the end of it. That's going to be spectacular.
This 611 car, by the way, we were mentioning about cars that could go from GLTC to Falcon Club TR and vice versa. Well, this used to be a GLTC car. If you know Todd Cayley, the name, he's raced with us for a couple of years, sold this car, and here it is. This is an ex-GLTC chassis that is now here in Falcon Club TR. Still has the highlighter yellow and blue body panels on it. And that car is being driven by Benjamin Carter in Falcon Club TR in that Honda S2000.
And Kevin View, Benjamin Carter was up in third not too long ago, and the number 18 of Kevin View has jumped up into that second spot and has turned a really nice lap, joining the Dead Boys number 880 in the 148. So a really good lap by View.
Certainly, and again, we've got new graphics here this season that will show you who's in the top 5, not only in this session, but throughout all of the sessions. Just going through some things right now, we'll get that up for you shortly here, but there's that 611 now through turns 2 and 3, and we talk about this racetrack having some flow and how it's an Alan Wilson design track. It shares a lot with Autobahn Country Club, which isn't on the GRIDLIFE Festival Tour this season. It is a club weekend round, which will not be live streamed, but it shares a lot of the characteristics. This section in particular, very similar to 5, 6, 7 at Autobahn Country Club. It's just almost like transplanted right from one to the other.
It's a design feature that Alan Wilson loves because you've got the same one only to the left at what used to be called Miller Motorsports Park out in Utah, and it was the Three Devils corner, the Demon Devil Diablo triple apex left-hander. You've got a version of it that Herman Tilke, who designed the Istanbul track in Turkey for Formula One, did at Coda. It's just one of those sequences where you get those 3 apexes together. You really have to work, 1, to figure the line out, and then 2, how to drive it, because you're balancing it on the throttle all the way through there, and you've got to exercise a little patience, because if you overcharge, you're going to push off, and then you're going to be slow out of that final triple, that third apex, if you will. So those are just great tests, and the drivers that really get it figured out, get the car to rotate a little bit, just with that throttle, they can get through there very quickly.
Certainly. Until we got our shiny new graphics up and running, you can go to racehero.io for live timing. On the cut line right now in P5 is Andrew Zhang in the number 78 car. He's the driver on the bubble right now to make it into the podium sprint. Mike Jansen in the 174, Marshall Moore and Junner Gwynn just outside. Not Fast Motorsports, that's the number 28 car. They are also just outside. Trip Walker as well. So everyone's fighting for P5 or better in this one. And right now, Andrew Zhang has that cut line, and it's only by 0.4 of a second.
Well, the interesting thing right now, that cut line is really well defined because well, it changed to get in front of 6 at that point and get into that top 5. You need to run a 149 right now. And then Andrew goes out and says, well, it better be a 149.5 or less, because he just jumped up there. So a nice run for him. In Sunday Cup, the cut line would be, right now it's Colton Simpson, the number 31, and he's driving the Honda Fit, and he has turned at this stage a 2-minute .515. So once again, you're going to have to get sub 2 minutes and 0.5 of a second to get up into that top 5.
And leading the Sunday Cup category is Lucas Urban. Michael Ross Smith just got real close to him, but Lucas Urban in this number 369 car, that is the fastest driver in Falcon Sunday Cup. And as it rolls right now, it looks like checkered flag is out as Urban works his way back around to the stripe in that Ford. This car was out at Heartland last season and was really impressive, and so far he is the top man in the podium sprint.
Absolutely great run here, and it was interesting. Morone turned a 145.1 this morning. Best he could do today, a 145.7 or this afternoon. I think some of that is heat, and also we've had a long couple of drift sessions, which really packs a lot of weird rubber down on the track. And two, drift cars tend to run off a little bit, pull some debris up onto the track. Then we also had a GLTC race on top of it, so the track conditions are vastly different than what they were this morning.
So, by the way, Todd Cayley's hanging out in our chat and saying hi, and he misses the car, misses the group, but we miss you too, Todd, and good to see the car still living on in Grid Life competition. Next
Benjamin doing right by it.
Doing right by it, certainly. Next group up is going to be our street class, followed by street GT, then it'll be street mod, and then our final group will be unlimited and track mod paired up together. So this next group is only going to be our street class cars, of which there are several. Josh Halka, Tony Barber, Brian Flanagan, your top three on the grid for this next session in your street category. Again, that was after practice this morning.
And these are open tire class for this.
Yeah, so not locked into the Falcon RT660. I still think it's a great tire for this category, but you don't have to run anything in particular. There is certainly a treadwear limitation, but you don't have to go with any particular brand or group. Speaking of different brand or group, by the way, of course, Falcon is our official tire of Grid Life Time Attack, so that's really, really exciting stuff. And, of course, we've got some other partners on board with us this season that have joined us, and for TrackBattle, Valvoline, 303, and Stable and Advanced Auto Parts with us this season for Grid Life NOS Energy TrackBattle Championship.
Exactly, and a huge thanks, obviously, to NOS Energy Drink for coming on board for that support and partnership. Good stuff. What you got there?
I got Nitro Mango. This stuff is really good. I'm a mango guy. Like, if there's a mango-flavored thing, I'll go for it.
I'm doing the GT grape.
GT grape.
And I just like the GT idea.
Do they have GLTC grape?
They probably will by the end of the season. Right here, folks. It's good stuff. Very good stuff.
Awesome. So Group B is our street category. And again, working on these shiny new graphics. Eric behind the scenes doing an exceptional job. For those that were watching earlier today, had a generator failure that prompted us to go get a replacement generator. And we want to wish a big thank you to our ops team, and specifically Charlie and Aaron, who really were working overtime to get that in place. But because of the power loss, had to reset a whole bunch of things, as we're kind of behind the 8 ball just a little bit because of that power problem. But everyone's doing a great job to make do with what we've got, Greg.
And there you take a look. Part of NOS Energy Drink support of the championship is an absolutely amazing hospitality area, and it will be at every one of the events. So if you can make it out to one of these Grid Life Festival Tour events, just take a look at gridlife.com. Take a look at the schedule. If you can make it out to one, do. And you've got this. There's vendors all over, food trucks, a stage for music in each evening, Friday, Saturday night. It really is something special. And you get that GT Grape.
There you go.
There he is.
Yep. So of course, the Grid Life Festival Tour will visit 6 racetracks across the season. First up, of course, Carolina Motorsports Park, followed up by Watkins Glen International, April 28th through 30th. June 2nd through 4th is Gingerman Raceway for Grid Life Festival. That's the 10th time we've done a Grid Life Festival. Can you believe it, Greg? 10 years of Grid Life Midwest, followed by our return to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. That will be our 4th festival tour of the season. Then Lime Rock Park for Circuit Legends Festival. And then rounding out the season will, of course, be WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, our first time bringing this whole thing over to the West Coast. That's going to be an exceptional, exceptional weekend.
Grid Life in the Monterey Peninsula. I love it. And on an iconic racetrack that's going to be just spectacular. And I'll tell you what, I mean, it was obviously, you mentioned 10 years, and I remember, that first season of Grid Life, second and third season, I wasn't involved in it, but this guy Tom O'Gorman, who I was announcing a lot in Pro Racing Series, kept talking to me about it. And he had it on his car, and he kept saying, man, this thing is so fun, it's so fun. And a few years ago, you gave me the opportunity to come be a part of it, and it's spectacular. And it is some of the best racing in terms of the Touring Cup. And this new concept of the NOS Energy Drink Track Battle Championship with the Podium Sprint, I think is just going to light things up.
On track there is, that is, I think, Tom Halka in the number 7, or is it the 700 card? That is, he's got two little
700,
zeros,
yeah.
2 little zeros painted on the door card there. He heads off into turn number 14. Again, still working on those graphics for you. I hear they are close, so hang tight with us for just a couple more minutes. We'll read out the times for you, or you can go to racehero.io, or you can go to grid.life/live, and you can see the embedded Twitch stream there, as well as live timing and scoring, all available for you, grid.life/live. There he goes through turn number 1, over the curbs, all-wheel drive Subaru here, Greg. This is a popular choice for street class. The top 2 in the grid were both all-wheel drive cars. One, a WRX, that's Josh Halka. The second car, Tony Barber, in a Tesla Model 3.
That says something about the, this series speaks a lot about inclusivity and diversity, and it's not just in terms of the drivers and teams, it's the cars themselves, and that's showing up here, and having a Tesla out there running very competitively, only at 2/10 off.
Nathan Brown getting after it through turn 3 there, the 994. That is a Volkswagen GTI, qualifier practice at a 146.905. Again, if they started the podium sprint as they practice, Nathan Brown would be in that podium sprint, and Patrick Daugherty in the 75 car. That is a stock Honda Civic Type R running 6th in street. I'm sure he is very excited about being back with us down here. Patrick is a great guy, heavily involved with us on the partnership side here at GridLife, and good to see him out on track. We just saw the 177 of Brandon Luthi, and another Golfar that is down the order just a little bit, but scrapping for that top 5 spot. There's Tony Barber, the Turn-In Concepts Tesla Model 3, new livery on the car this year, looking sharp.
Looks really, really good. And, of course, with these electric cars, it's instant torque. You don't wind it up at all. As you push on the throttle, it just goes. And it's a little bit different driving style, but once you figure it out, these cars will really hustle around a track. Obviously, sometimes you want to get your lap in early because, one of the things that you bring in with an electric car is energy management, and you've got to always be on top of that game just a little bit. To me, the weirdest thing about them is no noise.
And especially inside the car. Usually you're using your revs as a pointer of when to start hitting the brakes or when to shift, but you don't have to do any of that stuff. Well, you have to hit the brakes, but you don't have to shift in these cars. A little wide there at turn 1 for Tony Barber. He is the fastest in the session so far at a 140.375, the fastest a street car has gone this weekend.
That's a new track record.
New track record, and we're going to see a lot of that this weekend. Josh Halka, second, 4/10 back. Then about 5 seconds back from that is Richard Cho in the 495. Then Brian Flanagan. Patrick Daugherty, P5 at the cut line. Then it's Nathan Brown, P6. Brennan Luthi, P7. Shift and shuffle. Looks like someone jumped up the order. Daugherty's 5th. Brown. Nish Patel jumps up to P5 in the 350 car.
That's a heck of a lap. And just looking at this here, we were talking about that first session that maybe the track wasn't quite as quick. But look at that cloud cover out there. There are parts of the track now that are cooling off, and it's showing here because first Josh Halka went out and was almost a second faster than he was in the practice session this morning. And then Tony Barber just went out in that Tesla Model 3 here, just ran a lap 1.5 seconds quicker than he ran in the morning. So right now, this track is really starting to come in for these guys.
So here's a look at our new graphics for this season for qualifying. So one little thing here, working out some glitches and bugs. Burris right now has not set a time. We're going to drop him to the bottom of this order at some point. But this is what it's going to look like. We're going to keep it on the screen because it's informative here. We do have a yellow flag waving and some dust in the air. We should be good to continue. But in this top 5, you see you're advancing and you're chasing. Advancing means that you'll make it to the podium sprint. These times in every qualifying session are going to only take the best time of a driver throughout the weekend. So you'll only see it change if they improve. Otherwise, if they don't run qualifying 2, they're still going to show up in qualifying 2 because they have this time from qualifying 1. So basically, imagine all 3 qualifyings as one long session, and this ticker is going to show you the overall results for the weekend per class every time we bring it up. Chasing, those are the drivers that need to find a little bit more time to get into that podium sprint competition tomorrow.
It's fabulous, and I mean this is all part and parcel of this new presentation, and it's so informative. And obviously Burris not there, so Patel would technically be in that advancing category, and Daugherty would be the next one in the chasing. And you see right now, Daugherty's got some work to do if he's going to do it. He's got to find a tick over 1 second here if he wants to move up. The nice thing is, if your car's not quite right today, tomorrow you get 2 more qualifying sessions to try and get into the advancing group, and I think that makes it special, and it gives them that carrot, doesn't it? Not just speed in the record, but it gives them that carrot to chase to get into that podium sprint.
Yeah, so the goal here again, once Burris gets dropped again, he hasn't had a lap time yet, so we'll sort out that bug. But Barber, Halka, Cho, Flanagan, and Patel, those are currently your advancing drivers. Everyone else has some work to do to get into that podium sprint, but as you mentioned, 2 more sessions to do so. So fun to watch this continue here. Nathan Brown, Herndon in that GLA 45 AMG, kind of a crossover thing. Which is a very interesting car to have on track, Greg. But Devin, he's had that for a while, and it's just fun to watch that thing rip around a racetrack.
It is. Sounds sweet, too.
It certainly does.
A very unique engine note that's really impressive here. And, again, here's the exit of the final turn 14. When we get a shot again, we'll have it. The sequence before that, right here, there's a little bit wider angle you can get. And you can see there are 2 track layouts there. The original one, you came out of turn 11, and then you sort of got into this weird kind of horseshoe, a very tight left at 12 and another tight left at 13. There you can see it, the old track layout. It had no rhythm or flow to it. It was really point and squirt. And so when the new owners bought this place and have done amazing things with it, they put in this layout, which really gives this track now, this section of the track, a lot more flow.
Certainly. There's Patrick Daugherty in that Honda Civic Type R, and there is Devin Herndon in that GLA 45 AMG. Some new graphics on the cars this season as well, Greg. The goal behind this was to basically make it easier for spectators and for us to tell what's going on. The banners have a colored stripe, the door cards have the class color, and so do the rear of the car, so any angle you should be able to see what the car is in terms of class. You see the blue there, that's street class. Of course, we saw pink and gray, that's Sunday Cup and Falcon Club TR. And coming up next, we'll see gold. That is your street GT category. So all color-coded. We were like that in the past, but it was a smaller sticker, so a little easier to spot as Patrick works his way through turns 2 and 3.
Well, and I'll guarantee you that the folks at Timing and Scoring love the new number placards that are absolutely consistent throughout. Makes it much easier. Yes, you have transponders running, but you also, from scoring's point of view, one, scorers want to be able to read numbers, and 2, if you're standing trackside, you don't have and you don't have a phone or whatever that you're watching scoring with, you still want to know what the number is, who's in that car, and it just looks absolutely great. Folks, we've got people trackside here today.
And we're going to have even more trackside tomorrow, which is really exciting. You can see there's some of the camping that people have got set up here around Carolina Motorsports Park, and I'm so excited about this facility, Greg, because it really feel the energy about wanting to make this event successful, making modifications to it before we got here to make more room for parking for tomorrow. It really seems like CMP and GridLife have a long future together.
I think so. And we just had a shot there. It just left, but there's a big stage set up here. There's music each night, but during the day there is a huge LED big screen TV there. So if you're over in that area, watching whether they're racing, whether track battle or drift, when the car you're watching or whatever goes out of frame, you can turn and follow them around the rest of the track. And I love this bit of signage here. These are all the partners that help make this series possible. And I'll tell you what, GridLife's so lucky to have some fabulous partners.
It takes a lot to get it to happen. A lot of people behind the scenes making it happen, and a lot of partners that are helping us out as well. So great to see. We just got a shot at Tom Halka as well. Another livery on that Subaru. That's another Turn-In Concepts car. Currently just outside of that cut line for the advancing. You see him down there. He will shift to 8th as Burris hasn't had a lap on track yet, and we're sorting out that issue right now. But Brandon Luthi in the 177, a couple seconds shy of being up there in the mix.
I tell you, the 994 Brown, though, has jumped up. We were talking about Daugherty was the guy with an opportunity to get after Patel, but he had to find something, and then it was the 994 Nathan Brown and his VW GTI that just uncorked a 147.3. So he's still a bit off of Patel, but he's closer, and obviously has opportunity. And as we're looking at this now, you can see this cloud cover thickening up just a little bit, and what that does is it allows the track to cool. And you've got a track that has just had sun beating down on it most of the day. It heats up, and there's a certain point of diminishing returns. You need heat and tires, but when you got a really hot track, it gets a little greasy. And so the cars, tend to slip and slide a little bit more. you get that sun as the checker flag comes out. You get the sun coming, or being blocked by the clouds. Track cools a little bit. Suddenly you can see some quick times come up, and that's what we saw there. You take a look at what Tony Barber did right at the end of 140.3.
So really interesting about street class here. Inside the podium sprint so far advancing would be a Tesla Model 3, a Subaru Impreza, a 370Z, and Flanagan's also in a 370Z, but also Anish Patel in a 350Z, and just outside, Nathan Brown is in a front-wheel drive Volkswagen GTI. So look at the parity in that class alone in street. I mean, it's always been known for being, all-wheel drive heavy, but we've got 2 rear-wheel drive, 3 rear-wheel drive cars in that mix, and a front-wheel drive car that's right there knocking on the door.
Yeah, and it's impressive, and that's one of the great things about GridLife in general is when they talk about inclusivity, they're talking about cars as well.
And people.
Well, certainly people. But if you've got a car, there's probably someplace in GridLife with minor work on the car that it'll run. And that's the whole idea because of how they balance things. And it's really creative and it's successful.
So, street class is complete here for qualifying 1. So far advancing, Barber, Halka, Cho, Flanagan, and Patel would be the drivers. If it were to end now, they would be in that podium sprint. But there's still 2 more sessions for Brown, Daughtery, Halka, and others to work their way into that top 5 and make it to the podium sprint. Again, tomorrow afternoon, that's when we're deciding the podiums for all of our I've got to get used to this, Greg. The GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship classes, and that will be our top 5 from each class, running slowest to fastest, 2 laps each, going for glory in the podium spots.
It makes it so fun, doesn't it? It really does. And just having that, again, it's a big deal for a time attack style series to get a entitlement partner at the level of NOS Energy. Says a lot about what they think about the series, because we all know what everybody else thinks about NOS. It's awesome, but that says a lot, and it's going to be, pardon the pun, a really good driver, for bigger and better things as the season unfolds.
And Adam Jabay said yesterday, Adam Jabay, co-founder and motorsports director at GridLife, said, one of the things that hit him the most with this new partnership is he's just so proud of the drivers and really the spectators, everyone that has built this series up, because it takes effort behind the scenes, but if the drivers aren't in bringing their time, their weekends, and their energy to put on this show, this wouldn't be happening. So big thanks to all the drivers and the people at home watching to make this possible.
Well, they're the entrants, right? They're the ones that show up and ultimately put on the show. Lots of other people help coordinate that and make it happen. But in the end, people aren't here to watch officials. They're here to watch the drivers getting around the track, and so absolutely right. And let's not forget, we have to say thanks to all the corner workers, all the volunteers. The corner workers in particular that are out technically in harm's way, helping provide information to the drivers via flags and information to race control. They're standing out there. It's a volunteer gig. They might get a lunch, and they get to hang and party a little bit at night, but they pay their own travel, their own lodging. And they are a dedicated group, and every series is lucky to have them. GridLife, very much so.
So coming up next is going to be GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship Street GT. They're going to be the next group on track, followed by Street Modified, and then it'll be Unlimited and Track Mod paired up together in our final group of Q1. So Street GT heading out on track here in just a moment. Andy Volkel in the number 34 Corvette. Oh, look at this. What we got going on here?
He just had that. Talk about drifting.
What class is that?
Formula sled.
Formula sled.
I don't know.
Oh, man. It's definitely getting cloudier here.
It is.
And I wonder where we're at with the forecast for tomorrow. I'd heard about a little bit of precipitation.
There is that possibility. So, that's going to make things interesting here. And what does that do? That puts a huge amount of gravitas, I love using that word, on this session today. We're not technically, from what I hear, originally supposed to get anything until later, afternoon tomorrow. So the morning sessions tomorrow, if it's still dry, those are going to be the ones that could really determine who gets into that podium sprint.
Right. So we should touch on this because 3 qualifying sessions. You can run just 1. We're only taking your best time when we're taking our top 5. So here's the deal. If you don't run today or you have a problem today and tomorrow it rains, now your wet times are going to be going up against today's dry time. So it definitely puts importance on multiple sessions, which is not something that was necessarily true in the past. So there's just an element of reliability in this that is almost contradictory to what some time attack cars are built to do, which is go fast for one lap. Technically, you can win this podium in 2 laps. One good lap in qualifying, one good lap in the podium sprint. But if you didn't get a lap in today and tomorrow it rains, you're in trouble. And this is something, a pressure that these drivers didn't have before. And I would expect drivers to leave pit lane with a little bit of butterflies now, which is maybe not something they had prior.
Well, that's a really good point. But in the end, right, even before this concept came out, it would be 1 lap that would win the weekend for you, right?
Yep.
So now you've just got to be paying attention maybe to a little bit more. I mean, it really isn't any different. I mean, any weekend in the past, you show up and you get the first day's dry and the next days are wet. That first day's it.
Right.
So that doesn't change. The format changes a little bit, makes it a little bit more exciting. And I'll tell you what, you get that really fast time in, right? And let's say tomorrow morning, you get a really good time in, you're there, then it gets wet. So no point going out in that third qualifying session. And then the podium sprint is wet.
Yeah.
Most of the time these guys wouldn't go out.
Right.
That's not what it's about. But now if they want to win the weekend and get the trophy and the points, you got to go out, put your laps in the wet.
Right.
This is something new for them to potentially experience. And what does it do? It really highlights the drivers.
It really does. And I think I was reading some comments about people that were saying the last time we had a format that was anything other than the previous format, we had some upsets on the podium. I think the format they're talking about was our bracket battle competition, which is a little bit of a different style of time attack, Greg. Basically, cars go out nose to tail, and you're basically monitoring a gap in a sector. And that's how we did that. It's not really time attack in the traditional sense, but we've done that before, and it's an interesting format. There's Andy Volkel, by the way, in that C8 Corvette. He was the fastest driver in practice. He's going to get into that podium sprint, and here we go. Green flag on Street GT for the GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship, qualifying 1. Getting outside that top 5, get yourself set for the podium sprint tomorrow.
Yep, green flag is out. And in a lot of ways, I've always thought that Street GT, there are just 3 letters missing between the G and the T, and it's R-U-N. It's grunt. This is the horsepower class, the non-modified horsepower class, if you will. And the cars, for one, sound glorious, and boy, do they go. If
you're wondering what kind of cars fit into Street GT, really this is built for your American V8 muscle, but a very popular choice, and that's told by having 4 of the top 5 cars in practice. The Toyota GR Supra, in particular, is really well set up and suited for Street GT. Brandon Hodge, Ben Bultus, Ruben Lopez, and Drew Vosk all driving Toyota GR Supras inside the top 5 in practice times here. There's Volkel getting set up, throttling down here through turn number 13. C8 Corvette, Greg, a different engine layout than the C7 and all the other Corvette predecessors. Probably better suited to track driving here with this mid-engine layout, a little bit more better balance in this Corvette platform, and this is just the American cheap, fast car.
Exactly, and that's why it was really, in many ways, what drove the change to the mid-engined Corvette was the Corvette racing program in IMSA and at Le Mans, and all of the other cars, including, and if you're thinking, Corvette, that's not a mid-engine car. Well, even more so would be Porsche. Porsche's not a mid-engine car. They built a mid-engine car for IMSA GT Le Mans competition. And, the Corvette in its rear-wheel front engine layout had just really been developed as to the point that there was not much left to it, and they had to do something. And they came up with a beauty.
Into turn 8, Volkel will jump on the brakes there. Probably not as much as some other cars on track that we've seen previously. These cars have very good balance, and I think in particular they make a little bit of downforce too.
They do.
Which,
they do.
Again, Street GT, you can't do a ton. It's not quite like Street Modified. We're going to see some pretty crazy cars in Street Mod. But any OEM parts you can have on this car, and you see the rear wing on that Street GT machine for Volkel, and into turn number 11 now, getting up on the curb there, getting after it there. Good livery too on this car.
Yep, nice graphics. Announcers love that very distinctive kind of graphic package, and fans do too. It just looks nice. And yeah, this car goes. There's no question about it. And that balance just allows you, to flow more speed. It doesn't have an inherent push, or it's not, diabolically loose. It's just balanced. And so a good driver that can feel that can do some really spectacular things with it. Then look here at Brandon Hodge and that beautiful blue. That is one of those Toyota GR Supras. Sharp-looking car as well.
And there's another good look at our new graphics for this season. Now it's working. Thank you. Behind the scenes getting it working. Eddie Volkel, top of the board, and you see Gravely, Keys, Barnes, and Hodge in your advancing group right now here for Q1. Lopez, Voss, Gallagher just outside, and you see right there the 40 jumps to the top. He's now advancing to the podium sprint. Big slide there for the GR Supra, and now Voss to the top of the board at a 141.734.
Man, this is changing absolutely on the fly here, and it just gives you an idea of just how competitive this is. Voss, I mean, Volkel was up in front by seconds 2 laps ago. Now he's third.
And Gallagher jumped up right to the tailpipes there of the cut line, and then Barnes in the 351 jumped up ahead of him. Michael Barnes in a Shelby GT350. He's just outside the cut line, just under that chasing bar there. Lopez in the 799, Ruben in the GR Supra. He's clinging onto it by 0.4 of a second.
So close at this stage. And Barnes sitting back there. Then it's about a half second back to the 2 of Gallagher. So he's certainly, he and the rest of the field have a little bit of work to do at this stage.
A couple GR Supras heading down the back straightaway towards turn number 10. That fast right-hand kick. 3 GR Supras in one shot there. Onto the binders here. That is the number 40 that is working his way down. That's Ben Bultus in the GR Supra, the 40 car. A little wide there at turn number 11, but behind him, the next car, a little bit tighter to the apex.
That wider line, obviously you're offline. There's a little bit of clag out there, and you tend to dirty up the tires just a little bit. He did a nice job of not overreacting to running wide there and just letting the car have that little bit of a wider run. And the thing is, you go wide in one of those corners, you still have that tight apex, so you don't gain anything. You may not lose as much as you might think, but the better line is if you can arc in and through, and that's the idea of the apex, and why we talk about, if you're new to this kind of sport, the apex, you want to go in the smoothest arc from entry to the apex and out. And if you run wide, you have to tighten your radius up. And if you turn in late, you tighten your radius up. If you turn in early, you tighten your radius up. And all of that is what scrubs speed. It's that simple. And we're looking at these times here where you got differences of tenths, maybe even hundredths of a second. A little bobble like that could be a half second.
Right.
That can set you way back.
Well, that half second right now is the difference between Brandon Hodge being in and being out,
yeah,
with Barnes right behind him at a 143.603. It's a 143.265 that you got to beat to be in the podium sprint tomorrow. Again, 2 more sessions to get yourself into this top 5, but it's pretty cutthroat right now. There's also a Tesla Model 3 out here that is Street GT class, which is interesting. We just saw one in Street. So when we talk about big American muscle, it's American for sure, and I'm not sure if it technically classifies as a muscle car, but that's just kind of the intention of the class. But if it fits, it fits.
So what would be the difference between the 2 cars? That one would be in street, one would be in GT?
A lot of that comes down to tire choice,
yeah,
and then the modifications that you make or allowed to make. By the way, we just saw Scott Giles, who is our rookie lead and one of our GLTC helpers. He was waving the flags in the previous session. He's got a absolutely gorgeous Ford Mustang. I think it's the Mach 1, that kind of off-white trim with the orange around it. Great looking car. P12 right now in Street GT, and about 7 positions away from that all-important cut line into the advancing group.
And that's an amazing car, and Scott has done a lot of driving. In fact, he's probably one of the few people here who drove this course when it was relatively new. So yeah, he's been around here and has done some laps. And our race director is driven here as well. So when those guys are talking, he and Renee are talking in the drivers' meetings. Listen.
Woof. You see the suspension compression there at turn 10. He's whipping that thing through the spin for the 256 car. Around goes the 256, and that is Drew Vosk, who is inside the top 5. And now here's a new thing.
He just set the time, didn't he?
I think he had that time.
Oh, he did have it,
But here's something critical about the GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship that was started midway last year.
Well done.
If you go, I'm working on it. It's new. If you go off or you have a spin, you're required to self-report, or they will stop recording your lap times. in an effort to keep it cleaner on the racetrack. So what Drew will have to do is come down pit lane, self-report the spin, and then he will go back out on the racetrack, and he will be able to keep his lap times after that. But you have to hit pit lane, otherwise you will stop being scored. That can be critical, Greg. If you forget to do that and you set a fast lap, it will not count towards the podium sprint.
That's crucial, absolutely. The one thing that Drew has going for him, and I think maybe people are looking skyward at this stage and going, we better really put some laps in here because he's right now up by 0.7 of a second, and he was still trying to find more speed. And I think his thought is there's time left in this session, and if this track continues to cool, it can get quicker. Still, you've got to continue pushing here. And here's a look at Volkel in that vet. Hand out the window. He's coming into the pits.
And looks like Hodge picked up a little bit of time, a 1:42.594. And Lopez, actually, I think Lopez just kind of jumped up into the mix. And Barnes is now outside by about, 7/10 of a second?
Yeah,
9/10 of a second.
That's a heck of a lap by Lopez.
Yeah, gets him right up in the mix there, though. So between first and fifth is 1.3 seconds. That's what's in the podium sprint and what's out. That's all the difference there. So get a little bit of traffic down there at turn 1 between the Tesla and the GR Supra here as we get about 10 minutes into the session. And you're going to get about 6 or 7 laps at most in this session, so you got to make them count, Greg. And it looks like we've seen a little bit of shuffling in this top 5. Who knows what tomorrow will bring in Q2.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point. You don't get a lot of laps here, and if you have that spin while you're reporting in pit lane, you lose a lap at maybe 2 at that point. So you want to push, but there, as with everything in this sport, you hear this all the time: risk versus reward, right? And it's like, all right, I've got a time. Things are good. Yeah, I could maybe find another 1/10 or 2, but at this stage, is it worth it to over push? Work your way up to it. Don't try and do it in big chunks.
Michael Calamaris in the number 65. That is a BMW M3. It's the blue car working its way through turn 13 right now. Down in 16th place in class right now, working to find a little bit more pace in that 65 BMW. BMW M3, another great street GT car. Think about Alex Arteat, who's been in street GT for a while, not here this weekend, but the M3, a great platform for this particular class.
It works well. I mean, it does everything well, doesn't it? It's got really good plant and accelerates well, superb on the brakes. And for a front engine rear drive car, it's got a nice balance to it. You can hustle it through corners. It's a great package. It's been around for a while, and they haven't changed it a whole lot, and there's a good reason for it. It works.
It works. Don't change what's not broken, certainly. Your top 5 in your advancing group has been pretty constant the last couple of minutes. Barnes unable to go any quicker than the 1:43.603 that he has gotten so far. Needs to improve if he wants to make it into the podium sprint tomorrow. Same with Gallagher, Keys, Gravely, Kitchens, Giles, and so on and so forth. And the 285 car, by the way, Keith Brown, that is a Camaro ZL1.
Number 40 is off. Yeah, that is that's Ben Bolthus in his GR Supra, who has really thrown down some laps. And I think did he just spin?
I think
he have mechanical?
I think he just went straight off at 1.
Yeah, I think he did.
But ooh, that's a tight dip there. I'm not sure if he can get the splitter out from there, so he'll turn it around. That will be a yellow flag down there at turn number 1.
I bet he felt that start to dip and went, I'm done.
Yeah, I wonder if turn 1's a little slippery. We've seen a couple cars go off there, but it's a pretty tight corner after a pretty long straightaway also. So we'll keep
we've had all that drifting out there, and that corner, they are really sideways through there, and it really deposits a lot of rubber down on the track. So he's just looking for a clean route out and around. There you can see the yellow. It's just at turn 1 right now, and since it would be the start-finish position that would flag turn 1, and that flag should be dropped. We should be back for the rest of this one.
Carrying on, probably running out of time here in this session as well. We have 2 more groups left to go. Street Modified and then Unlimited and Track Mod will be paired up together. And that's a fairly sizable group, by the way. Track Mod's got a lot of cars in it here this weekend. So does Unlimited for that matter. So it's going to get pretty interesting to watch in these final 2 groups of GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship Qualifying 1. There's Brennan Hodge, P4 right now in an advancing position, but he's not comfortable. He's only a second clear of Barnes, so you got to keep putting in laps, Greg, just in case those other drivers get a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and you look at it, and a second in racing is usually a big number, right? It's tough, but think about a second of time. And, you make one little mistake in a corner, and that's a second, and somebody who's a second or more off you finally puts that lap together, and they can find a second and a half. You got 14 turns, right? And if you're a tenth quicker in every corner, that's almost a second and a half. It happens that fast.
Yeah, it's a point I always drill in, is a tenth of a second you lose in each corner at a 14-turn track. That's 1.4 seconds.
Yep.
A tenth is a blink of an eye.
Exactly.
And you're driving 100+ miles an hour and hucking it through corners and jumping curbs. It is not a lot of time, really, in the grand scheme of things. There's the number 90 car, by the way. That is Michael Kitchens in the Toyota GR Supra. And looking pretty good, but he's down the order in 10th place, so 5 spots shy of advancing to the podium sprint. But we know that GR Supra is certainly capable. There's 2 others inside the top 5 right now in the advancing position. 3 others, actually, including Vosk up at the top. So we certainly know that the car can get there, and I'm going to see if he can dial in the setup just a little bit more. Checkered flag here, by the way.
So this session coming to a conclusion. And, you know, some of that, you're absolutely right, dialing the car in just a little bit. If you haven't been here before and you haven't been able to do any testing, you know, you're out that, you know, your first practice session, you're just trying to learn the track. Then maybe the second one, you're starting to actually try and dial the car up a little bit. So for some of these drivers, just because they're down a smidge here, you know, a couple of seconds off at this stage, doesn't mean they're going to stay there. If you know, tomorrow, particularly that morning session is dry tomorrow, there's huge opportunity for these drivers to make some significant gains.
Definitely. The 373, Ben Smallin, just jumped Burke Searcy, so moves Smallin up to 12th, Searcy back to 13th place. So position swap there, but work to do to get in to the podium sprint.
Here's a look at some of the amazing machines here. That's, you know, one of the cool things here is there's the cars that are actually out in competition, but there are just some great cars that are just displayed here. And you wander through this this whole paddock area, and most of the time your jaw's on your chest.
We have a concourse as well that will be here tomorrow. So if you're here at the racetrack, make sure you check that out. As we're getting set up now for Street Mod is our next group that will be on track here in just a moment. Let's take a look at our Hyundai N track preview, actually, Greg. This is a good time to go through that once more for those that have joined us a little bit later. So if we can get that Hyundai N track preview, we'll go through and show you the different corners around this racetrack. 14 turns, 2.3 miles. Here's a look at it, Greg. It all starts with that run down the front straightaway. Turn 1, we've seen this be a trouble spot. 90-degree left. That's what we saw the number 40 just spin off down there at 1. Sharp 90 and into 2 and 3, which are just kinks.
Yeah, they're just quick little flicks, but you've got to get them right. Straighten that out as much as you can because your next set of corners, if you get somebody to make a little mistake in 2 or 3, you can get to the inside of them down here into 4, but you've got to get it done early. So you got to get through there well because once you get into 4, you're immediately straight lining to the apex curb at 5. You swing out through the next 2 apexes. Then down here, you can see falls away a little bit into 8. It's a quicker corner than you think, but it's easy to overcharge it as well.
Then you head up out of 8, get back on the throttle early because you're carrying that through that kink tighter than it looks at turn 10. Then into turn 11, a great heavy braking zone. You can gain some time there, leads into a very tight section. Because there's not a straightaway after it, you can charge that pretty hard. Then through 12 and 13, you're getting on throttle and kind of swinging out to the edge of the track. Very much like Gingerman turns 7, 8, 9, where you're kind of riding the rim down into turn 14 to finish the lap.
Yeah, it's an increasing radius. You turn into 12, and then it opens up. So you just feed it throttle. You keep feeding it throttle. And if, again, you get somebody that just has the back end step out, they get a little too greedy coming through 13, you can do something with them down into that final turn. It's more than 90 degrees. That's about 110-degree final corner. So you can really plant somebody down there and be able to make a pass if you're in a door-to-door racing scenario. But again, if it's just in the track battle championship, if you get somebody that's around you, they make a little mistake, you don't, you're probably going to advance a lot quicker than they are. I mean, it's just that simple.
Certainly. Street Modified is up next, and just to kind of preview how things were at after practice, Ryan Matthews, Cal Fortner, Andy Sal, Kyle McHugh, and then Mike Omick, your top 5 in practice so far. Omick at a 39.462. That would be your cut line for the podium sprint. Jamie Santos about 1.4 seconds back in a BMW 135i. Street Modified, as you see them rolling out now, this is a really interesting category, Greg, because it's not quite unlimited. You can do a lot to these cars. You can do pretty heavy engine mods on these cars. You can add a ton of aero, and you get really wild-looking cars in this class, and some that are a bit more conservative builds. We don't have any Jackie Ding or Alex Moss this weekend, but Cal Fortner in that 14, that is a Mercedes-AMG GTS. very similar to the GT4 spec IMSA car in terms of its engine. It's got that bi-turbo V8. Really neat car. Rich and Cal Fortner and Edie Fortner, they're awesome people, and Cal's here. He's throwing sparks in the cake earlier. Should be fun to watch here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a car. It's incredibly well balanced, and it's got built into the original chassis build really good aero, and it's got some power certainly. And so this is going to be a big opportunity for Cal to really show that car off, and he does every time he takes it out. It's beautiful, and he wheels it. That said, he's about 4/10 off of Ryan Matthews and his Corvette, the number 121, after that practice session. So those two, they've got a real duel going. And then about a half second adrift to them in another Corvette is Andy Sau in the number 307. So it's going to be fun to see just who can really put something together. But the interesting thing is Sau McKeel, I think I'm getting those names right, in the 29 and the 6 of Michael Amick, they are covered by a blanket in terms of times. And that's going to be your advanced positions if things stay to form from what we've seen earlier. But there's plenty of guys that are fast just lurking behind them that can surprise.
Just a couple tenths of a second between those drivers. Once they all get times up on the board, we'll bring up the timing and scoring for you to watch and see that cut line there is the 121 of Ryan Matthews in a C5 Chevrolet Corvette. Right behind is Cal Fortner in that Mercedes-AMG GTS with Al's Auto Body on the side of it. Heading down the front straightaway into turn one. Get after it, street mod. This is such a fantastic class. One of the most entertaining categories to watch here on Grid Life Live in the Grid Life NOS Energy Track Battle Championship. Bit of a wobble there through turn two, Greg.
Well, the fast way around this track would be you throw away the exit of one a little bit, right? Maybe exit halfway on the track so you can just flow through 2 and 3. You get in a little hot into 1, and you want to get that drive out of 2, so you've got to try and get the car back over. And every once in a while, you just ask a little bit too much of the grip that you have at that moment, and the car will flat slide just a little bit. You do that once, and then you go, okay, I need to just tighten that up a little bit. And now I know, as a number of legendary World Championship drivers have said, sometimes the quickest way to find the limit is to exceed it a little bit.
Yes, certainly.
And he just did. He knows where it is now.
Cal Fortner looked like he was backing off a little bit, get some yap on Ryan Matthews here. Matthews did a 136.266 in practice. As we are watching times come across the board here in just a moment, there's the 121 down at turn number 11. Fortner will be chasing. He was 2 seconds shy of Matthews' best time earlier in the day in practice. We'll see how things pan out here as they come back around to complete their first flying.
And it's interesting here, isn't it? You take a look at, a street GT that was just out. Fastest times we had earlier today were 139s. Street mod, where you talked about it, you throw a lot more at the car in terms of technology and also budget. 3 seconds is what you get out of it. Then you go to unlimited when we get those guys out. The amount of tech they are putting into those cars, and it's worth at this track, another 3 seconds. So that just tells you about how important those little aero bits are, a little bit of extra grip, whatever it takes, because we monitor and measure these things in such tight increments.
Ryan Matthews quickest on the board. Again, we're still working on that glitch where drivers without times are showing up at the top, but we'll get that sorted for you a little bit later. Matthews, Santos, the 29, Xiao, and then Hoffman is in the 145, and Devin Hoffman in the white WRX STI, number 145 car. She's on track right now, currently in an advancing position. If that 196 car gets a time, I have a feeling he'll drop down to the bottom or wherever he ends up once he gets a time up on the board. So it's Matthews fastest, and Santos, McHugh, and then Xiao and Hoffman in your top 5 right now. Then it's Wheeler, Santos, Amick, Granados, and Eichinger in the 41 car.
I'll tell you what, I'm loving seeing the 860 of Joshua Garcia. It's a 1985 Toyota Corolla Sport, flying the old Toyota GTP colors on the side of it, and the colors when Willie T. Ribbs, for instance, was racing in the IMSA GT category back in the day. It's an older car. He's out there having an absolute blast. He's a little bit off the pace, but he's out there having big fun right now as we're watching Ryan Matthews trying to improve on a 135.87, which is already half a second quicker than he ran in the practice earlier today.
Across the stripe, will it be faster? 135, 576.
Yeah.
It is faster, so continues to set a very high bar for anyone else. Cal Fortner, by the way, I don't think has put in a representative lap just yet, but we'd expect him to jump right up into the mix. Jamie Santos in that BMW 135i, a couple seconds back in that 82. There's that Corolla you were mentioning, and I love the livery on
I
that,
do
the
too.
classic Toyota TRD colors.
You bet.
Into turn 11.
You bet. And Joshua giving it a heck of a run here, and it just doesn't fit into like a street GT category with the mods that it has on it. And he's just wheeling it, having an absolute blast out here. And for those of us who have a little bit more experience in life under their belts, is the best way to put it. That's a nice nostalgic thing to see this car out and running, because it's got so much history from back in the day.
It does. Through the last corner, a little bit of counter steer there, a little bit of opposite lock.
He's giving it a bit of welly, he is.
Giving it all he's got, that's for sure. Devin Hoffman still clinging to that transfer spot again. Johnson has not set a time yet, so he should drop to the bottom.
And that's why Fortner hasn't set a representative lap. He went out, drove a couple, and came right into the pits, and they're tweaking a bit.
I did just see that car back on between turns 2 and 3.
I heard him leave the pits.
Yeah,
so,
you can hear it from a while away.
Exactly.
Not quite as loud as the Audi they've had, though.
Yeah, no, but yeah.
The so-called Loudy. You could hear that. It's the same volume whether you're standing 2 feet away from it or 2 miles away from it. It makes a ton of
Somehow
noise.
it just travels the air, yeah.
So
here's that tricky complex we're talking about. That turn at the bottom is 4, and you turn in early and you actually go straight to the apex of 5. Then you start arcing around that, and you've got to be patient when you come out of 6, because if you try and turn in too soon, back end's going to come around. If you try and grab throttle too soon, you're just going to push wide, be slow out. So you've just got to be patient. You're literally balancing the car on the throttle through all 3 of those apexes.
There was Cal Fortner coming out of the trees, heading down towards turn number 11. There's another GR Super. There's Cal Fortner. Still looks like he's kind of a little under pace here.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's warming up or if there's still an issue they're trying to diagnose.
Yeah, I don't know if he's just really being gentle, bringing the tires in, like you said, or if he's got some issue that they just haven't been able to deal with.
Had some pitch and roll there at 11, so maybe he's going to get on it here.
Yeah. And this is, one of those things that is new to these drivers is those practice sessions. If you get a record, you get a record. But practice means a few points. But practice means nothing in terms of getting to that podium sprint and earning the trophy and the event points, other than a record point. And so, everybody's got to be very mindful of that. I was good in practice, but if you're not in qualifying, you've got issues, and you've got to keep that in your mind this year. And Cal's on top of it. I mean, look at that. That was about a perfect line through 1. Exit halfway, middle of the track at the exit of 1 to be able to just flick it really quick into 2, straight line it to 3, and just fly up here to 4.
And not really relying on the curbs to rotate the car. He's being not super aggressive on those just yet. Got some rub blocks underneath the front splitter. We saw him rolling through turn 10 earlier, showers of sparks as the car was in kind of a compression there. Using that splitter to divide the air and stick the car to the road. Really neat aerodynamic devices put on this car to make it go fast.
Absolutely, and something's wrong.
Yeah.
He is not showing pace here at all.
But again, this is the idea of having multiple qualifying sessions.
Exactly.
Is he can come back out tomorrow and get back inside that top 5 should he find the ability to. Other cars on track we'll keep our eyes on. We mentioned Devin Hoffman, Jonathan Wheeler in a 370Z is on track. Mike Amick is that number 6. That's that Subaru you see in the center of your shot, working his way through the kink. Logan Kenseth, that's the CTS-V that you've seen out there. That's a cool looking car, the Cadillac Logan Kenseth. He's working his way through
Really nice.
12 and 13 right now.
And the 307 of Sal sitting right there. Actually, you would be 3rd, right? No, 4th in this group because we have that one interloper at the front. So the number 307 of Andy Sau, the Corvette, doing a nice job here. He, though, I think is going to be a little frustrated because we're seeing some of these other guys running significantly quicker than they did this morning. He's almost at an identical time. He had in the morning session, he had a 1:39.1. Actually, he's about a half second off, so he's struggling to find the same pace. Now, the wind has picked up, and one thing we haven't talked about is if you get a headwind, that'll just slow your straight line speed down a little bit. but it can also really affect the aero. And we're getting, these cars now, you've talked about it, how sensitive the aero is. And if you're driving into a headwind, it makes the aero much more effective, which is great in a corner, but in a straight line, it's drag. And so you can ultimately end up being slower on a lap if you've got a nasty headwind. And conversely, a tailwind takes away some of the aero from the car. So you might be a rocket quick in a straight line, but when you want to turn in, you don't have anywhere near the aero, because if the wind is strong enough, it's stealing some of the aero efficiency from the car.
You see the wind blowing the pine trees around here a little bit. By the way, cut line-wise, 0.3 of a second, Greg, is all that's separating Hoffman from Wheeler right now. Hoffman in, Wheeler out, the way it sits right now. 0.3 of a second. That is so close. If Wheeler could find a little bit or over on Hoffman, then Wheeler's in, Hoffman's out. That's how tight it is here in Street Mod here.
Nissan 370Z.
Yeah.
For Wheeler, and he's just got to get up on it a little bit. And Hoffman driving one of those Subarus, the WRX STI. And again, I mean, it's amazing how vastly different those cars are. 0.3 separating them.
Certainly. We've just got to look at Matt Santos. There he is, 377. That's a Ford Mustang. I think that's a GT350 heading up towards turn number 1 again. And Matt Santos down in P9 right now, but not far off. 2 seconds off. Again, things can fluctuate so much throughout the weekend. If he finds some pace, dials in the tire pressures, he could be up in that mix. Through turn 1 now, into turn 2, and this is a sleek-looking race car.
It really is sharp. Nice graphic package on it, and that's a really aggressive wing on the back. That's going to be really effective. And under the hood, there is a lot of grunt there.
Yeah, certainly no shortage of power in really any of the classes we've gone over the last little bit. I mean, all these cars are probably above 300, 400, 500 horsepower, especially at the pointy end of the field. Other cars to mention, there's a few others that we haven't really talked a whole lot about. Fernando Granados in the 696, that's a GR Supra, as well as Bradley Balcom. I don't know if we've seen him on track. The 222, we have not,
nope.
But he is driving a Mitsubishi Evo, which we generally see a lot of in street modified and in street class, but there's just not a lot of those here this weekend for whatever reason. It's a very popular car in street specifically, but not a ton here this weekend at CMP.
Yeah, it's interesting that we haven't seen a lot of them. And I'm just looking here. Matthews was just a little over 2 seconds quicker than everybody else in the practice session. Cal Fortner was second in that AMG GTS. For Fortner, he's got to be concerned here because of the impending weather potential. And if he doesn't get a lap in here, I mean, he should be up in that top 5, you would think, based on what we've seen at previous events and earlier today. But again, depending upon how quick the weather moves in tomorrow, if he doesn't get out and really get a flyer in at some point here, he could be nail-bite nervous come tomorrow.
Jackie Ding's got a sharp eye in our chat right now, but he just told me that Kyle McCow, I got to get that name pronunciation. Jackie, help me out with that. The number 29's name pronunciation ran an identical time to his practice time, a 1:39.276, down to the thousandth.
That's incredible.
That is incredible.
That's consistency, that's for sure.
So the 377 working his way now through turns 3 and 4, and 14 minutes into the session, you could expect a checkered flag any moment to get their last flying lap in. It seems like all the takers have so far, most of them have gone off track already, and it leaves a very open track now for Matt Santos. McHugh, thank you, Jackie. Kyle McHugh, excellent.
Got to appreciate that. McHugh.
Not here this weekend, Jackie. We're missing you. We'll see you next time. Hopefully at Watkins Glen. I think that that PhD Racing Supra, oh boy, at Watkins Glen up the back straightaway, Greg. Oh, 170 or better, I bet.
Yep, and with the grip of that track, it's going to be something else.
There's that CTSV again. Logan Kenseth heading into the kink. CTSV, interesting choice of track car. Certainly capable. Definitely a little on the heavier side, though, Greg.
Absolutely. Obviously, and the other thing, it makes really good power. There's no question about that. But as you said, heavier. And when you look at it compared to the stance, the width of some of the other cars, it's a little narrower chassis. That makes it really good in long duration, fast corners. But it makes it a little more difficult to change direction in shorter, tight stuff. And so that's just part of the challenges you're dealing with. And since Jackie's paying such attention, I'd like to confirm is the name on that 307. We want to make sure we're getting those right.
It's Shao. I think
Shao?
it's Shao. I think I asked him yesterday.
I was close. All right.
Yep. So we'll Jackie will tell us.
Yeah.
Even when he's not here, he's being awesome.
He's part of it.
Yep.
And do you know, are Jamie and Matt Santos, are they related?
I don't know actually.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
There's the caddy we were talking about.
Yep.
Logan Kenseth.
421. Got the American flag on the wing end plate there. Woo!
Yeah, there you go.
Go
And on a roof.
And
too.
on the roof.
Yeah.
Down in 10th place, 5 spots shy of advancing. Actually, 4 spots shy because of that 196 that is at the top of the order that does not have a lap time set. And again, I've been told they're working on fixing that for us. Greg behind the scenes, Eric and MyPed, the nickname for the guy that makes this all work. I get to just like draw on a canvas and say, hey, make it look like that, and then they do all the hard work.
They do the work, yeah.
To make it all plug it in. I promise you, this was not an easy task to get this ticker to do what it's doing right now.
Absolutely not.
Lots of work behind the scenes, and appreciate everything from the stream team. It's been a tough weekend this morning, but they're doing a great job rolling with the punches and getting out on screen for everyone at home here.
Hey, we were talking about it last night, looking at tech and watching some of the stuff unfolding and saying they're geeks. And the simple fact of the matter is geeks make things happen. And so in these days, at least in my opinion, when you say the word geek, that is a massive compliment.
Absolutely.
Huge compliment because
look who's back out.
All right.
Cal Fortner. He's running that time though. The session's been green for 17 minutes.
Yeah,
so
he needs to get a lap in right now.
Yeah,
there's that spark you were talking about.
Yep. Oh, there it is again, sparking on the brakes.
Yeah.
Maybe
well,
bottoming out a little
obviously
too much.
pushing it.
Or he might be on a flyer now too, so in that case he'd be safe. But Cal Fortner trying to get his way inside the top 5. By the way, look who's gotten the time, Johnson. So now our top 5 is correct now.
All
so
right.
that solves that problem. Matthew Santos, McHugh, Shao, and Hoffman are your top 5. Can Cal Fortner boot out Devin Hoffman for the podium sprint? They have 2 more sessions to sort it out, but Cal Fortner trying to get up inside that top 5 at turn 14, throttles up the biturbo V8 up onto the front straightaway and to the stripe.
Does he get? Oh, the checker comes
But is
out.
this a flying lap? Will it count for him?
Boom!
Yes, it does. P2 for Cal Fortner, a 137.878. Second place bumps out Devin Hoffman, and to second goes Fortner.
Wow. Yeah, I was concerned that was an outlap. But obviously he'd gone out and put 1 outlap in already, got those tires warmed up. And I think he was a little hot into 11. He ran a little wide at the exit, so there's more to come from Fortner. But, think about it, folks. He's gone out twice. Something's not right. Comes in pits. They get it as fixed as they can, and he had the confidence to go out and lay out that kind of a lap. That says a lot, one, about him as a driver, and also his confidence in that crew.
That was an incredible lap, and unfortunately for Devin Hoffman, she's got a little bit of work to do tomorrow morning in Q2. But and actually, here's the thing that's going to be a challenge: is the gap was 3/10 when Hoffman was inside the podium sprint, the advancing group.
Yep.
Now with Fortner jumping up there from Shao to Hoffman is 3 seconds.
Yeah,
so
big change.
That's a big jump.
Big change.
And remember, your times carry over from session to session, so there'll be some time that the 145 is looking for. And Wheeler right behind her also, 3/10 back.
Yep.
Renatos is right there. They could swap it and shift and shuffle. The way that we set our results, podium sprint for the top 5 and the last dash on Sunday morning, that's how we set finishing positions for 6th on down. So Sunday morning is when the rest of the order will be set. And points, by the way, different than last year. Previously, the points, Greg, the fastest driver got 100 points, and for every 10th off, it was -1 point. So you get, if a driver was a 10th off the leader, it'd be 100 points, then 99. If you were 5/10 off, it'd be 95 points. This year, it's like GLTC. The fastest driver gets 25 for the weekend. Next fastest gets 21. Then 18, 16, 15, and all down to P19 in class. So that's how the points work. A little bit different. Track record is good for 1 point.
So finishing in that top 5, making it to that podium sprint is crucial in terms of not just prestige and trophies, but points on the season.
Certainly, and even inside the top 5, from 16 to 15 points for 4th to 5th, if you get that track record in practice, for example, and you're P5, you get that 1 point, it would tie you for 4th. So that's worth something for sure.
You bet it is. And for a lot of these people, the trophies and the weekend win and all that's certainly important, but they leave when they've got a track record just with that little extra bounce in their step.
Yeah.
You know.
And the point wasn't to make track records less important, certainly.
Ooh, not at all.
But one of the things we wanted to do is make sure that everyone knew when the competition is going to happen. That will be tomorrow afternoon. That's when we're going to set our podium. Oh, look, we got the infinity wall there. Oh, that is trippy. We're watching it on the screen here. Trackside at Carolina Motorsports Park. So street modified, checkered flag is out. Next up, Greg, this is the fastest of the fast. Unlimited and track mod up next.
It is going to be quick.
So these cars, unlimited, for better or for worse, rules-wise, not much. There's some safety requirements in place at this level. If you're within 107% of the fastest car, you have to have a roll cage. You've got to have fire suppression and a fire suit, obviously, as well as head and neck restraint at this point. This is when cars get pretty scary fast. Eric Fleming earlier, a 1:33.576 in practice. That is 3 seconds faster than we saw in qualifying here for street mod. So that is a big jump from street mod up to unlimited and track mod. And there's a lot of track mod cars that are actually faster than some of the unlimited cars in this group.
There are. I mean, you know, Fleming's time, you know, seconds quicker than anybody else, but second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth in the morning combined practice, all track mod machines. So they are plenty fast.
So waiting for those drivers to head out. You just saw a look at the GRIDLIFE arcade over there on the inside of Turn 1. I have to thank Andrew Cardinale IV for helping us out here this weekend. He's running the arcade over there. The Sims are running Assetto Corsa and the Carolina Motorsports Park mod that's available to download. So they're actually driving the track that we're at. So it was a little bit of an Inception situation there. Look at everyone having a good time there. Wheels upside down there, buddy. Gonna flip it up the upside way. There you go. And helping them out as they're all enjoying a good time. You saw the NOS cans there. You're watching the GRIDLIFE NOS Energy Track Battle Championship. Qualifying 1. Unlimited in track mod now. Take to the road.
And we are, our announcing station is almost kind of what that view was from that camera right there. We're right up next to the track. And when these things come out, the engine notes, you know something's different here. Some of these mods are just incredible. And you see now, you can get a good view here of this whole run, exit of 1. And if you're really wide where the drift line is, and that can be a little deceptive if you're not new to the track, you're thinking, all right, that dark groove is where I want to be, right? Well, not when there's drift cars in it, because they're slinging the car around. You want to actually be, when you exit, be inside of that dark groove where that black car is about right, because you can see how much easier that little flick is into 2, and then gets you set up much easier to swing over for 3. Really important to get out of 3 well. Because that's actually a nice little chute, and if you don't have a good line into 3, or you're slow out of 2, you're just slow all the way up to turn 4, and you can't gain that back. That's the problem. When you're slow out of a corner, relative to everybody else out there, you're slow up until the next hard braking section, where you really slow down again relative to them. So you really have to piece these laps together. That's the thing. Some corners there, the little corners where you can make the little mistake and it's not going to hurt you too much. But in some of these, where any time you're coming out of a slower section into a fairly fast section, you got to get the exit of that slow corner right, or you're just going to be behind everybody up until the next slow corner. That's simple.
On track now are your unlimited cars and your track modified cars. There in the silver C6, that's Eric Fleming. He's the first car in unlimited by a long way. So as far as getting into the podium sprint, almost a shoe-in as long as this car makes a complete lap. But track mod, led by Jason Kanakary right behind in that black McLaren 720S, that's very close. 4/10 between him and Bronson McNeamer in the 114. That's an LS swap MX-5 Miata. Then just behind is Justin Peachy in the 245. That's the Hawk car, I believe. And then Chris Boersma at a 137.7. There are 4 cars within a second in track mod. So that's going to be a real fun battle to watch.
Absolutely. And what I love about this is the mix. I mean, you've got, highly modified cars out there. That MX-5 Miata, if you look at it, that thing, the modifications on that.
Not much Miata left.
No, it's insane. But it's up against the McLaren 720S, which is a supercar. A genuine supercar out there, and then these modified Corvettes with all that power that they have. It's just such a great mix of machinery.
There's Eric Fleming working his way through. This is the track mod stacker. We'll basically bounce back and forth between these two throughout the session to keep an eye on everybody here in the session. But track mod is there, and we'll get to unlimited when we get around to it. But Eric Fleming leaving turn number 7 and down to turn number 8. There he goes. and the speeds that this car is going to see heading into turn 11, pretty incredible.
Absolutely. It's so fast here. This is that really snug turn. It at speed, it feels tight. It's a little more open than you think, but at speed, it feels tight. And then here's the kink. And this is the one in these type of cars, you're approaching it at such an amazingly high rate of speed that you turn in, there's a curb right at turn in, and if you clout that curb so much, it can throw you straight off of the exit of that track, and that usually ends up being pretty nasty.
So here comes Eric Fleming into turn 12 now, and that increasing radius corner that you talked about, riding the edge of the road here. You see the rubbered in line right at the edge of the track, Greg, and final corner here coming up for Fleming.
It's like you're riding the cushion on a dirt oval all the way around that outside. It just opens the arc up, and whenever we talk about opening the arc up, you know, the arc through a corner, as you can see him getting on the hammer here. Let's see what kind of a time he puts up as he comes through. First significant flyer.
32.7 for Eric Fleming. Fastest lap we've seen this weekend by a second.
Yeah.
That is an incredible lap for Eric Fleming. He's still getting after it. He might go for a second one here. As long as he doesn't run into the back of some traffic. That's the thing. There's a big track mod group here this weekend.
Yes, there is.
And you can see already, I think there was a car just leaving the shot, so he's got to get this other flyer in. But that time should be good enough to already get him in the podium sprint with what he's been running.
You would think so. I mean, based on what we're seeing and everything, you know, it should be good. But he's going to continue to go for it because let's not forget, we talk about it, these guys also want a record. And obviously this weekend, the fastest lap in every class will be a record because nobody set a record here before in the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship. So that's going to be interesting. But here we go. You know, look at these cars again, and just the mix that you have out there, and they're all so quick.
Ruger in the 56 car, second in Unlimited at a 47.9. Pettit in the 32 at a 52.6. And there's going to be a Bassett up to P3 in the 269 car, 151.559. There'll be a pretty sizable spread here in Unlimited because the rules are so open. You get some pretty wild cars and cars that just are kind of misfits and land in Unlimited because of tire choice or for some other reason. Here's Jason Kanakry with the track mod lead right now at a 136.009. 3/10 behind is Justin Peachy, and then Jakish in the number 700 has a 3-second advantage over Dylan in the 219. That's your cut line here in advancing and chasing.
That is so close between these cars. There's that McLaren 720S that we were talking about. It's got every conceivable driver aid, lots of downforce on it, really good power, and if you piece the lap together, look at that. Even with all that, you can see he left some serious black stripes.
And watch that rear wing.
Yeah.
Active arrow on this car. We get in the braking zone, that rear wing stands up with hydraulics and it basically slows the car down, acts like an air brake. And then the straightaway, it lays back down. So the car, not needing any more downforce, needs to get slippery. That rear wing lays down. I've ridden in this car at Heartland Motorsports Park. The thing gets to 130, 140. You can just hear the turbo go, and then you just keep going. It's incredible how fast this car goes. And Kanakry looks like he's bailing out of it here. And here comes behind him, that looks like there's a couple other cars. One of those, I think, is Justin Peachy creeping through there. Oh, no, that might be Boersma. Tall drone shot there. We'll update you. But Boersma right now, P3 for the number 33 car. He is in the podium sprint as it stands.
Yeah, impressive run here. Previous lap in that highly modified Civic, a 137.7. And so he's underneath that by 1.3 seconds. So that's
whoa. This is Justin Peachy in the Hawk Performance Corvette on the binders here into turn 11. A little slip and a slide as there's a little bit of traffic with Fleming on a cool down here as the 145 goes around him into turn 12 and 13. Peachy's second in track mod right now, looking for one spot better and be the quickest man in track mod right now, but he's slowing down maybe to get a gap here for this next lap.
Yep, I think he caught that traffic, and even though he was able, he's got something flapping at the back of the car too. It looks like one of the
user
has come adrift, so that may be part of the issue. But you know, he got trapped a little bit, and he had to tighten up his exit to not get into the lap car. And as I said, you tighten your exit up, you're literally, that radius through the corner becomes tighter, and you scrub speed relative to the optimal line through there. But he had sensed clearly a problem at the back of the car anyway.
Whoa, Fleming back on it here in Unlimited, charging through turn 1, and I'm not sure if he's on it still or if he's going to bail. But, yep, it looks like he's going to bail. He's got his fist out the window. Maybe he's letting somebody by. He was just getting, I think he was starting the flyer.
Yep, he was, and he
bailed out.
overshot it.
Yep. So,
because sometimes you'll do that at the end of the flyer because of you're just carrying so much speed through the timing line that you just get in a little bit hot into one. But in this case, that was just started a lap, and it went wrong in a hurry. And that's the smart move. Why torture the tires? You're not going to make the time up. Just slow it down, come around, start it over again.
And a reminder for those that just joined us, again, you see the Ahlstrom and Monteleone at the top of the board. A little issue right now is preventing those drivers from dropping to the bottom of the stack without a time. So Kanakri, Peachy, Boersma, McNeamer, and Jakish are your top 5, your advancing drivers right now, as Kanakri now works his way through a little bit of traffic and maybe trying to go again. There is your unlimited stacker once more. Fleming, Ruger, Pettit, Bassett, and Briggs, your top 5. At the moment. I don't think Briggs and Grabo have gotten a representative time, though. Those are significantly off what we'd expect. So Kanakri looks like he might be setting up for another go here, back in the track modified class.
Yeah, Briggs had a 1:45.6 this morning, so something is not quite right there at this stage. And Phil Grabo actually had a 43.9 in that WRX. So yeah, there's something not right. I just love that.
It's so
the arrow on this car.
I call these things swoopy. They're just swoopy looking cars. He's back on it now, back on power as he comes across the stripe and down into turn number 1. Quickest so far in track mod. And again, almost a shoe-in when it comes to the podium sprint, but there's enough people kind of nipping at his heels that you got to keep running just in case. Peachy right there. Boersma's not far behind. McNeamer really only at 2 seconds back, especially if conditions change tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Who knows where we're going to end up with all this.
And, he's what, 7/10. Peachy is behind Kanakri. But keep in mind, folks, we've talked about this, that, again, if Peachy really strings together a great lap, and if Kanakri's had any little bit of a bobble somewhere, that margin can disappear in a hurry.
There's the 73 car. This is an interesting machine. That is, where is that 73? There it is. It is Thomas Lathrop in a BMW 325i. Really unique car, especially for the track modified class. And in the same class, we have a 700 horsepower McLaren 720S, and I don't know how much horsepower the BMW 325i's got, but I bet you it's not 700.
Yeah, that would be pushing the limit at best here. I think right there is what I was talking about. Kanakri just a little overran into turn number 11, that really tight hairpin, and he did, so he floats out a little bit wide, which means you can't get on the throttle quite as soon. And then coming through that last couple of corners here, that 12-13, you saw him tighten up his exit instead of riding the rim just a little bit. And I think if he would go out there a little bit farther, he would get an opportunity.
So Kanakri did not go faster, and he's going to wave off the driver ahead of him. I think that was Jake Bodenauer, who was actually planning on running in GLTC with that same car, but because it wasn't quite ready for GLTC, running it in track mod here this weekend, waving him off. He's actually running pretty well in track mod, P9, right? Actually,
he really is.
It'll be P7 because of those top two, so really in a good spot.
Well, and he was pointing Kanakri by, and Kanakri waved that off and said, "No, I'm going to back off and get a little bit of a gap here." So, not sure what. Some interesting communications going on.
Definitely. There's plenty of time. I think the drivers are just adjusting to this new format. Some more cars on track and a larger pace differential also from front to back. And that's something that the drivers will learn as we go on, is that the sessions are long enough for you. You don't all have to go out lap 1. You can wait a minute and then go out and get a clearer track. So they'll figure this out. It's new to everybody here. There's the 32 of Barry Pettit in unlimited rear-wheel drive. A 1:44.873 was his best time in practice. And right now, in his M3, up inside the top 5 for, he'll advance the podium sprint if he stays where he is, as the checkered is falling on this session.
Yeah, 45.5, so a nice lap for him. Really putting one together here.
So as the checkered falls here, let's take one more look at the unlimited stacker here as Kanakri rolls around. And there is Fleming, Ruger, Pettit, Bassett, and Briggs. Those are your top 5. Again, advancing to the podium sprint. Grabau in the 70, not quite getting a representative time. And then, of course, Kanakri in the 720S. This is, again, our track mod leader right now in Q1.
And, you know, here's the interesting thing to me as the checker comes out. Fleming right now, you know, he's 10 seconds clear, right? And you would think, well, it's game over. You go to that podium sprint, you've got 2 laps. If you make a mistake in both laps and somebody who otherwise would be well adrift of you really puts them together, you know, that's what to me makes this whole new concept so compelling.
Certainly. So there's your unlimited stacker. I'll go back to track mod and show you the rest of that again as the checkered flag falls. Kanakri, Peachy, Boersma, McNeamer, and Jakish, your top 5 advancing so far to the podium sprint. 2 more qualifying sessions, the same that we're doing right now. Again, it'll be the top 5 fastest after the completion of all 3 of those sessions. And those will be the drivers competing in that 2-lap shootout style sprint tomorrow afternoon.
And I mean, look at this. Peachy at a 36.2, Boersma 36.4. That's real. That's 2/10 separating those guys. And McNeamer at a 37.4. Yeah, he's off by about a second. But again, you know, we have seen that opportunity can close up in a hurry. So it's going to be such fun.
Yeah, really. So
such fun.
Dillon in the 219 cars, Nicholas Dillon in Audi R8 is trying to get up and get past the 700 car. And that's about a second and a half or so that he's going to have to eat up in Q2 and Q3 tomorrow. So Track Battle, the GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship Q1 is complete, and that means that tomorrow we're going to do the same thing 2 more times, and then we're going to do our podium sprint to determine our top 3 and actually early our top 5
yes.
and our winners in each category. So that's going to do it for the GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship Q1. And Greg, fun day. This is going to wrap up the stream for today. Late start. We got it rolling, though. Saw a great GLTC race.
Yeah.
And then we saw some awesome drift. And then, of course, our GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship qualifying. This new format's got a lot of potential. It looks like a lot of fun.
I think, yeah, it's got huge potential, and I think we're going to see that realized, you know, come tomorrow. There's no question about it. Yeah, some great stuff. As always, Friday is just a great portent of what's to come. And keep in mind, folks, might get a little bit of weather that'll be thrown into the mix, and that can shake things up. And sometimes you get some people that you otherwise wouldn't expect, you know, drive their way up into a podium, whether it's in the GLTC race or in the podium sprint for the NOS Energy Track Battle Championship.
Building anticipation.
Darn straight.
So it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great.
We'll see you tomorrow morning for the continuation of the GridLife NOS Energy Track Battle Championship, GridLife Touring Cup, and more drift. For those here at the racetrack, we're not done quite yet on track. We'll see some more drift coming up next your way. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow here on GridLife Live. Coverage of GridLife South Carolina is brought to you by Hyundai N. Hyundai N, never just drive. And Falcon Tires, the official tire of GridLife Track Battle.
RT660 is the enthusiast choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falcon Zenith RT660.
Owning a car can be expensive. It can also be confusing. What? And when things don't go right, there's no doubt it could be frustrating. But it can also be a lot of fun. And for those reasons, FCP Hero exists. Check this out. Do you and your car a favor and head over to fcphero.com to learn more.
Did you energize yet today? It's time to NOS up. Get after it.
Hi, I'm Chris Forsberg, and when it comes to classics and high-performance cars, I only trust America's #1 racing oil, Valvoline VR1. It's built on Valvoline's long legacy in racing, so I can continue to build my own. With 2 times more zinc than the industry standard, VR1's high-performance formula is tested on the track and trusted on the road to ensure your engine is protected from metal-to-metal contact. And I use it so much, I haven't got my car on the bottle. That's why whether I'm racing or cruising, I protect everything I drive with Valvoline. Valvoline, trusted for over 150 years.